Coming up on TekThing, Google Pixel review, detecting Internet of Thing malware, putting out foam fires, cheap noise canceling headphones, and so much more. It's all coming up next on TekThing. FreshBooks is offering a month of unrestricted use to all of our viewers, totally free right now, and you don't need a credit card for the trial. To claim your free month, go to freshbooks.com/TekThing and enter TekThing in the How Did You Hear About Us section.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we have something useful in every single show.
Yes, we do.
That's right, we do.
There is mayhem. We are going to fight denial of service attacks. There is going to be putting out fires. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, new MacBook Pros this week and a Microsoft Surface event tomorrow. So we can't talk about it today, but what we can talk about, ladies and gentlemen, is what could be the finest pure Android experience available on the surface of the planet. My co-host, Shannon Morse, has the Google Pixel XL. Is it the best Android phone ever?
I think that was the best intro I have ever had on any show ever in the past 8 years. That was amazing, just by the way.
It's
amazing.
All about one too many chocolate chip cookies.
I'm glad you did that, because I just went to Denver and I lost my voice from all the dry weather up there and the altitude. So yes, moving on. The new Google Pixel and the Pixel XL, they've been touted as everybody as being the best Android phone ever. I love vanilla Android myself, so I figured, and I use Google Fi, so I figured that I would buy one, and I've been testing it for the past couple of days to find out if it really is the best.
Got off the plane, violated speed limits getting home, ripped the package open.
I pretty much did, yeah. It comes in 3 different colors, and they sound like Doge colors, very Doge. Silver, black, and blue, basically, with prices starting at $649 and up. There's a 32 gig and a 128 gig version, but Google completely skipped over the 64 gig version, which I thought was a little weird. I guess they assume that most consumers don't really need the 64 gig version.
You're either cheap or you want all the storage.
Exactly. I ended up with the 128 gig version because I like all the storage, especially since I've started vlogging. I want to have a local storage of all those vlogs that I do. Vlogs, yeah. The new Pixel and the Pixel XL, they're 5 inches and 5.5 inches. This is the Pixel XL, so it's the 5.5 inch. Mine is the XL, so that's the one I'm going to be focusing on for this review. It has a 5.5 inch AMOLED QHD display. That means it's 2560 by 1440, and it has 534 pixels per inch. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful screen, and it runs Android 7.1 Nougat. Yay.
When you fired up Android 7.1 or Nougat, did you immediately, what leapt out at you as being the big changes?
The icons, they look a little weird. I'll get back to that in a bit. One of the other things that really stood out to me was the processor speed. It's a Snapdragon 821 processor plus 4 gigs of RAM. Now, in comparison, this is a big step up from the Nexus 6P that had a Snapdragon 820 processor and 3 gigs of RAM. I can definitely feel a difference between the two, especially when I'm booting up and switching between menus, especially when I'm playing games like Pokemon Go and Sailor Moon Drops, which is kind of like Candy Crush but with Sailor Moon. It's so much fun. And when I'm flipping through my apps rather quickly, if I just boot up the screen with all my applications, it flies through within less than a second. It's so quick. So I just love the quickness of it. I never thought I would need that. But now that I have it in my hands, I'm like, I never want to go back.
I haven't actually seen you pick up your 6P all day today.
I haven't. And that's weird for me.
It's dead.
But it's not dead to me. I have a second phone number. I need it. So the screen is bright. It's very, very beautiful. It's crisp. The colors are slightly oversaturated, but there is an sRGB mode. It is available in the developer option. So you can switch that off if you prefer to not have that oversaturation. I think it's pretty, so I leave it on. It is smaller and it's lighter than the 6P, which I actually liked a lot because the 6P is rather big, and you can definitely see a difference, especially if I switch over here between the two phones. So here's the new Pixel and here's the 6P. If I put them side by side, you can definitely see a height difference.
That's like 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah, about 1/8 of an inch. And this one is a little bit wider than the Pixel XL, so there's a big difference there. I think it's more aesthetically pleasing as well.
But that's probably more about like there's no camera bump anymore.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
the fingerprint scanner isn't like, I'm
it's
here!
completely flat on the back. The fingerprint scanner isn't as noticeable on the back.
Nice.
A lot of people don't like the glass at the top. I actually really like the glass on the outside, on the back of it, because it lets me know which way is up, and it also lets me know where the fingerprint scanner is, because it is a little bit more flush to the back of it.
So they were paying attention to the Apple remote where you couldn't tell which side was up.
I think they might have been. I don't like the speaker.
Really?
It's tinny at louder volumes. There's only one. It is found right here. When I hold the phone, because I'm left-handed, I cover it up. So that's totally stinks. It's in a terrible spot. I don't like it at all. The Nexus 6P, on the other hand, has two speakers, one on the top and one on the bottom, and they're on the front. So it's much louder, it's much stronger, it's much more bold of a sound there.
We have argued about this because I was like, don't you just use headphones? And you're like, it has two speakers and they fire at my face.
Exactly. And now I feel like I need a headphone jack, and now I feel like I need to connect it to a Bluetooth speaker because I can't hear it as well.
Is there a headphone jack?
Yes, there is. Okay. There is a headphone jack and USB-C. Woohoo! And it does do the fast charging. Fast charging is super cool.
How fast is the fast charging?
I believe it takes like 15 minutes to get 7 hours is what they quote. I could say that it's definitely pretty close to that, so I'm happy with it. The battery lasts a heck of a long time. My 6P will hit 20% by 8 o'clock almost every single night during a normal workday. The Pixel XL, on the other hand, for example, going home last night, it was still going strong at 40 to 50% on battery.
That's pretty epic.
It was epic. So that's 12 hours of battery life plus some with my normal usage. And that's like recording some videos and taking some pictures, lots of time on social networks and checking emails and making calls and stuff. So I use my phone a lot. That's saying something. I was pretty happy with it. Moving on to the camera, it has the same specs as the 6P, so I wasn't expecting too much of a difference.
The specs are not the camera.
Exactly.
I was gonna say
Yep. 12.3 megapixels, it's f2.0 on the rear, and then 8 megapixels f2.0. 2.4 on the front. I found it's much wider than the 6P and closer to the actual colors. And I took a few demo photos for you, and I'll show you those.
You say closer to like what you see with your the eyeballs?
Exactly, yeah. It's much closer to the normal color range that I would expect. So these are 3 photos that I took while I was over at Starbucks to give you an example of what the colors look like, and hopefully your monitors will let this come through. If I switch real quick over to the photos that I took on my Nexus 6P, you'll notice that these are a lot more bolder. These look a lot more HDR, even though both of them were taking the photos in HDR. I was expecting both of them to be the same. And I also noticed with the darker colors, this is on the 6P. If I zoom in here, it's a little bit harder to read what's written right here. It says PSL. Because pumpkin spice latte. If I go back to the one that was taken on the new Pixel XL, it's wider. You can see all the way over here to the counter, but it's also much easier to read what's written right there without even zooming in. It just says Pixel XL.
The Pixel XL is picking up a lot more light in the camera than the 6P was.
Yeah,
that's a huge difference.
It really seems that way, and I really, really liked how it dealt with low light, and I liked that it was much wider, so it picked up a lot more of what's going on around me. Much more natural too, so I really enjoyed that. When I used the front camera, the selfie cam, this one was a little bit different. This one gave me kind of an orange hue here, but you can also notice that it's still very wide. It hit all the way over to the corner of this room. If I switch over to, and this is on the 6P, so that's the wider, I believe it's the 16:9 ratio. But if I switch over to the regular ratio, you'll notice that it cuts off before the end of that photo, and it's not as bright, so it doesn't give me that orange hue. So that was a little strange that the 6P did that, while the new Pixel XL gave me this look.
That's not a flash photo.
No, it's not a flash photo, so that was a little odd.
It's so much bright. I mean, but it's picking up so much more light.
It is, yeah, it is. It definitely is. So I'm going to continually use that and post pictures on like Instagram and stuff. So if you want to see more, you can of course follow me there. One of the awesome perks though that I liked about this is even though the new Pixel XL can also record in 4K, this awesome perk that they came up with is you can back up any photos and videos in full res to Google Photos for free from the phone for life. So that
Or
means
until Google decides the life of this is over.
Yeah, of course. But then just use my last episode and back them all up to your local NAS. There
That's
you go.
really cool, though. I mean, as somebody
It's
who had,
awesome.
50 gigabytes of photos on their phone.
Yeah. I also noticed the Pixel fits in the DJI Osmo Mobile better than the 6P, so no problems with the volume button. I know that was kind of an issue with my 6P, so I'm excited about that. And all the app features work with the Osmo Mobile on the
Nice.
Pixel XL. That was super cool. I know, tangent, but it was awesome. I'm going to be using the audio when I record some vlogs, so I'll post those on my personal page too. But I'm interested in seeing how this picks up audio as opposed to just, the speakers going out. So that'll be fun to use.
Nougat.
Nougat, yes. So Nougat on the Pixel is a little bit different. It does have built-in icons from Google, and they all have these round white backgrounds. For example, you can kind of see them here, those 4 in that corner. They look kind of weird next to the transparent backgrounds of other ones, like the Instagram one, which is slightly curved. That's just kind of nitpicky, but it kind of bothers me because the older ones are all transparent and they look much more inclusive, if I could say. Very easy to upward swipe to get to all your different apps. The mini Google toolbar on the front doesn't take up as much room as the older 6P, so you can simply click on it and then you can Google things, or you can swipe over to get all the information that Google Now will give you. The Google Assistant is really, really cool. It's amazing. Mine reads me the weather and my calendar events each morning, and then it reads me the news at the end of the day. And the neat thing about it is that it's conversational. So, for example, if I want to ask it about like Jupiter's moons and then Saturn's moons,
Sure.
I could say, how many moons does Jupiter have?
According to Cool Cosmos, Caltech, Jupiter has at least 67 known moons. The largest 4 are called Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. These 4 moons are called the Galilean satellites because they were first seen in 1610 by the astronomer Galileo Galilei.
What about Saturn?
62 moons. According to Wikipedia, Saturn has 62 moons with confirmed orbits.
Okay, you can stop now. So it'll just...
Okay.
Oh, it's like, okay, I'll stop now. So it's up to you whether you use it or not, but I love that it's conversational, so I don't have to be like, how many moons does Saturn have? I can just be like, what about Saturn? And the same thing with weather. What is the weather today? How about tomorrow? Or next week? You can just be like, next week? And it'll give you the weather for next week. It's really cool.
Give Google any information to make it work?
You do. So when you first start up the phone, you have to give it access to have Google Assistant work. So it has to be able to have access to some of your data that will be sent back to Google. Hopefully everything's secure, but again, that's one of those things where it comes down to convenience over security. So if you prefer paranoia, which a lot of times I do, but I have it on for testing right now, then you probably want to turn it off.
You've got that I'm never turning this off sparkle.
I don't know, like I'm kind of iffy about it because, I love my security, but at the same time, Google already has everything of mine, so it's a trade-off.
I'm sensing, above and beyond whatever concerns you have about security with Google Assistants, that you are kind of massively thumbs up on this phone.
I am, very much so. I love this phone so far. To be honest, though, it is missing a few things. I like, for example, the OnePlus 3 has a fingerprint sensor on the front, which is great if it's sitting on a table. This one's on the back, so you have to pick it up and then unlock it. The 6P has much better speakers. It's also not waterproof, and I'm like, why does it cost so much and it's not waterproof? But at the same time, I've never dumped it in a toilet. I haven't dumped any of my phones in a toilet, so I might not even need that. He has. The battery life is great. Google Assistant is really cool. The speed is amazing. The camera is great. I can't wait to try it out with the Daydream VR. I get a free Daydream VR since I pre-ordered the phone, which is really cool. So I will definitely bring that on the show and test it out too.
$79 off the phone.
Woohoo! Whatever. So it's a fun phone. There is no reason why you should ever want to upgrade to the Google Pixel XL unless you feel like your current phone is sluggish or if it just doesn't have enough space on it or something like that.
But you didn't feel like your current phone was sluggish until you got the Google Pixel.
That's true. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like I kind of had to buy it to be able to review it on the show, but now I kind of just want to keep it instead of returning it.
He's keeping it.
I probably am going to keep it. It's a really nice phone. Well, let me know what you guys think, if anybody else has ordered the Pixel or the Pixel XL, if you've gotten them and you've been able to play with them. Let me know if there's anything that I missed as well that I should look into with this phone. I would definitely love to do some follow-ups, and I will be posting that vlog over on Snubs Report to mess with the audio and check it out.
iFixit has a repairability score for it of 6. It turns out it's mostly modular and easier to work with, but the screen is apparently very delicate.
Oh.
Protect the screen.
Good to know. I will protect my screen.
Joseph writes in, Patrick, Shannon, love your show. After last week's huge distributed denial of service attack, has anyone come up with an easy way for someone to discover if any of their Internet of Things devices have been hacked with Mirai or other malware? It's now obvious that this is a huge issue. Joseph, this has been paranoid geeks, security professionals, people who write like paranoid security professional geeks have been freaking out about this is not news, it's just what we told you was coming.
Yep.
Just blew up.
That's exactly what I said on ThreatWire. I was just like, I told you so. Yeah, so TLDR, it's huge, it's ugly, it's going to get worse. Apparently, Mirai was just one of the sources of the DDoS attack that took down Dyn DNS last week. So basically, what happened was a whole bunch of different Internet of Things or IoT devices were used with this open source malware called Mirai, which was open source just a few weeks ago to take down a bunch of popular sites on Friday. So Mirai looks for Internet of Things devices like routers and cameras and DVRs and pretty much whatever it can, and they have these factory default passwords, which is the kind of crappy part. So it infects them, and then they can be used to slam websites with these massive distributed denial of service attacks, which a DDoS is when it basically a flood of fake traffic overwhelms the server and it ends up taking down that website. Yeah. So your customers, if you are one of those websites, they can't get to you and then you lose profit.
Part of what was crazy about this, right, is they were really going after DNS servers, which is the thing that turns in www.TekThing.com into, like, I don't know, 172.47.31. whatever it is. I have no idea where our actual IP address is. It is really expensive for companies to fight distributed denial of service attacks.
Yeah.
You know, in some cases they just give in and pay a ransom to make it go away. In other cases, when it's you know, for example, Krebs on Security is now hosted by a special Google project that is just to keep journalists from being stomped out of existence because DDoS attacks have gotten so easy and so cheap.
Yeah. You
talk about this a bunch on ThreatWire.net.
I did, yeah. I just recorded an episode earlier today. You can get the scoop over at ThreatWire.net or YouTube.com/Hack5. I basically spent the entire episode talking about this attack, and the past couple of episodes we've been bringing it up because it's kind of like we're starting to see the beginning of it. Yeah. And Friday was just the blow-up point where now all the consumers are like, oh, this is happening. That's bad. How do we fix it? So that's I mean,
this is,
it's bad.
We know, like, there are a couple of companies whose products are profoundly insecure that we know are subject to this.
Yeah.
What we don't know is all the other ones that people haven't tapped into.
Right, exactly. And how do you tell if those components are used in the products that you buy? So if you know your way around Wireshark, which I've done tutorials on Wireshark, because it is confusing, but I've done tutorials on Hack5, and you can pinpoint specific traffic coming to and from your Internet of Things device. Mm-hmm. If you know how to change and understand how to change the passwords and usernames, plus if you know how to block specific ports so that Internet of Things devices can't gain access to the internets, then I think you would be golden. Plus, Mirai works in RAM, so on your device. So if you restart them, the botnet should cease to exist on your device, but it can still get in if you didn't change your username and password. It'll just reinfect it within minutes of that happening. There's also a TCP block or port that you should block.
You should block outgoing TCP on 48101. You should try to block SSH or Telnet to the Internet of Things devices, which gets really rough because in some cases of those devices, there's like the interface UC, which is sitting on top, which is essentially an application sitting on top of Linux. And in many cases, the manufacturer does things in Linux that you can't access or control.
Right.
For example, like leaving Telnet and SSH open, which means you might need a stronger router or more sophisticated router than you have that will allow you to access some pretty deep stuff going on inside your home network.
Such a headache.
Yeah, well, Joseph was thinking, like, what about like an antivirus for PCs? Someone needs to develop a network scanning tool that checks all the Internet of Things devices on a person's network to ensure that they are not infected.
Yes. I like this idea.
I like this idea. It's not a bad idea at all. But we got a bigger problem. I'm going to quote Virginia Senator Mark Warner, co-founder of the Senate Cybersecurity Caucus, which just popped up in response to this mess. Manufacturers today are flooding the market with cheap, insecure devices with few market incentives to design the products with security in mind or to provide ongoing support. So that's out of an article on Krebs on Security. Senator prods federal agencies on Internet of Things mess. This is really frustrating.
Yes.
Because what he's basically saying is like, well, I made a thing. I got to make it as cheap as possible for people to buy it. And are there going to be recalls on some of these devices? It looks like it.
Yeah.
Are there going to be, if you own a router and you haven't had an update in 2 or 3 years, imagine what it's like for somebody who's selling $17 connected light bulbs.
Oh my gosh.
Are they gonna go, or is there going to be a new, will the Senators Cybersecurity Caucus work with the Department of Homeland Security to generate best practices for Internet of Things devices? And you just have to buy a new set of stuff for your house.
Which nobody wants to do. So the problem that we're facing right now with Internet of Things devices is there is no standards of practice. There's no protocols or guidelines for security of these things. There's nothing that keeps them in place and makes them get certified. And I love the idea of having a tool that can scan all of your Internet of Things devices, but these devices are so proprietary.
Right.
Not all of them run on the same things. Who knows if a tool would be able to actually grab the information out of all those devices that you have in your household. It would be quite a feat. So at this time, we really don't have like a good, easy way to tell if you are hacked or not, unless you want to go down the rabbit hole of nerdy software like Wireshark to research your own data packets, that is, of course. That's something that I would do personally.
It'll be interesting to see if kind of at the ISP level, at the backbone level, if they start realizing, like when they're doing deep packet inspection or stateful packet inspection, where they're basically analyzing every single individual packet traveling over through the ISP servers, they may be able to shut some of this down. But this is definitely going to be a cat and mouse game. Brace for impact.
Brace for it, guys. Brace for it.
A couple years ago, Shannon pointed me towards our sponsor, Freshbooks, and it took the pain out of invoicing and getting paid. I can create and send a professional-looking invoice in about 30 seconds. And hey, Freshbooks isn't just about invoices. It's gotten even more useful. They've redesigned their cloud accounting software from the ground up, custom-built for exactly the way we work. The all-new FreshBooks is not only ridiculously easy to use, it is packed full of powerful features. Check out the new dashboard view. It lets you know exactly where your money is and where it's going. One of my favorite features, when your client has seen your invoice, you put an end to the guessing games. And if you're tired of looking for that box full of receipts you stashed somewhere, FreshBooks makes keeping track of your expenses just as easy as creating invoices. The mobile app lets you take pictures of your receipts, and FreshBooks organizes them for later. It can create expense reports for you and makes claiming expenses at tax time a breeze. Getting started on FreshBooks is extremely simple, even if you're not a numbers person, actually, especially if you're not a numbers person. FreshBooks has a month of unrestricted use for all of our listeners, totally free right now, and you don't need a credit card for the trial. To claim your free month, go to freshbooks.com/TekThing and enter TekThing in the How Did You Hear About Us section. That's freshbooks.com/TekThing, and please enter TekThing in the How Did You Hear About Us section. And we want to thank FreshBooks for their support.
Jeff wants some noise-canceling headphones, but he doesn't want to spend $300 on the top-rated Bose QuietComfort 25. He writes, I am willing to spend more than $30, but my ears just aren't good enough to justify $100 for earbuds. I have spent too much time around bombers, and the jet noise, even with hearing protection, has left me with a 6 kilohertz notch in my ears. Long plane trips with droning engines really take a toll on the ears. Compact would be nice, but I've never seen how on-ear or in-ear headphones can effectively block sound, so I've always bought over or around ear for noise canceling. In short, can you sort out the crap at the low end for me? Thanks, from Jeff.
Jeff, I'm all about the crap at the low end. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Awkward.
I gotta be perfectly honest. Noise canceling headphones, they make me feel like my head is about to collapse inward. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, I have the same feeling. If I go into an anechoic chamber, I immediately want to leave.
Yeah.
It is the worst feeling ever for me. So I
feel fine.
Yeah, I use big over-ear headphones. They sound better outside the airplane. They don't require batteries, and they block a fair amount of the background noise. Last week we were actually talking about electronic earmuffs. They block out like loud, high transient noises like gunshots or jackhammer blasts, or if you're hammering on things, or the scream of a bandsaw, right? Noise canceling headphones are about kind of the other end of things, the constant drone of an airplane engine, for your example. They literally, the reason that makes them noise canceling, they have microphones that listen to the ambient noise around you, and then they send an inverse sound wave that cancels out that droning noise. In-ears, by the way, can do an outstanding job of blocking noise because they can seal your ear canal, which makes that whole inverse wave sound thing that the electronic circuitry is doing even more effective. And you won't have trouble fitting glasses under them or over them. You won't have trouble fitting in-ears under your glasses. Some people with glasses have difficulty with over-ear headphones because the glasses kind of block the seal for the earmuffs. And by the way, in-ears, they pack much smaller. Bose owns some patents that give them an advantage. That's the reason they are generally getting the top ratings on these. The QuietComfort 20 acoustic noise canceling headphones are one example, and the 25 acoustic noise canceling headphones. These are two top rated devices. They are not cheap, but most reviewers call out the QC25 as the noise canceling headphones to beat. That said, for less than a third of the price, we have Audio-Technica's ATH-ANC7B QuietPoint active noise canceling closed back headphones. They're $89. They don't block noise as well. They don't sound as good, but they are way cheaper. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. There are not a lot of great inexpensive noise canceling options because noise canceling is actually pretty sophisticated stuff.
Yeah, there's some serious science going on in there.
Serious science.
And with serious science comes serious monetary financial.
Comes serious checks.
Stacks
of dollars. But yeah, check out the Audio-Technica's, the ATH-ANC7Bs are a much more affordable alternative. Or just buy something like those $75 Sony MDR7506s, which do a pretty good job of blocking out background noise, but they do not noise cancel. So it's a thing. Got some suggestions? Do us a favor, email ask@TekThing.com, and we'll do our best to answer your question.
We got a question from Mike who writes, "Hi Patrick and Snubs, I just watched episode 93 where Andrew had asked about S7 exploding. Patrick went on to explain how the Note 7 was recalled, but you guys missed that the article he mentioned was about the S7 exploding, not the Note 7. I like the show. Keep up the good work," from Mike.
Oh my goodness.
That was an oversight on our part.
Yeah, well, number one, glad you're enjoying the show. Number two, you're absolutely correct. I think it was, I've flown more in the last month than I have pretty much in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And the thing that's struck me over and over again is people basically saying you can't operate the Note 7 on the plane and you can't have the Note 7 on the plane, the flight attendants in the pre-flight briefing. Any case, along with that UK story, what you're looking at is a story from Phone Arena that has been covered all over the place. Says 3 S7s have exploded. We don't really know yet if it's endemic, if it's user error, or if what we're talking about is a normal statistical anomaly in the something like 30 million Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge phones that have been sold already. That said, I'd be thinking about charging my Samsung S7 in a battery bunker if I was seriously paranoid. If you've never seen
battery bunker?
Okay, if you've, I'm glad you asked. If you've never seen one, this is up on the Flight Test drone site. Battery bunker is essentially a chunk of concrete bricks and fireboard that is set up to. Well, okay.
That's cool.
It is really cool. You know, the idea is like if things go horribly wrong and you manage to have a fire involving your battery, what you can do is you can charge. Where is it? Come on, Flight Test guys. By the way, if you're into drones, if you haven't seen Flight Test, you really need to see Flight Test. What they basically built is a bunch of concrete blocks. With Harvey board over the top of it, a cement board, and that locks in the fire in case things go seriously wrong. Darren, aka our friend with 1,000 drone batteries, has a bunch of LiPo bags. Essentially, these are little fire-resistant, fireproof sacks that hold your batteries. The idea is that if you keep your batteries in here, it will contain the terrible potential flame. I'm doing this like tongue-in-cheek. Personally, I like the concrete option better. And personally, I think the vast majority of lithium-ion batteries are perfectly and totally safe. But people are, at this point, we've had like one person claims that their iPhone 7 lit their car on fire. We've got at least 3 or 4 Samsung S7/S7 Edge reports. And then, of course, we've got the whole Note 7 recall. At this point, you might be thinking, how do I put out a fire involving a phone with a lithium-ion battery?
Thermite!
No, that's how you make a phone with a lithium-ion battery disappear with flame and fire and awesome. BatteryUniversity.com, a wonderful resource on all things battery, basically talks about what to do in terms of putting out a battery fire. A small lithium-ion fire can be handled like any other combustible fire. For the best results, use a foam extinguisher, CO2, ABC dry chemical, powdered graphite, copper powder, or soda, that is sodium carbonate. If the fire occurs in an airplane cabin, the FAA instructs flight attendants to use water or soda pop. Water-based products are most readily available and are appropriate since lithium-ion contains very little lithium metal that reacts with water. Water also cools the adjacent area and prevents the fire from spreading. Research laboratories and factories also use water to extinguish lithium-ion battery fires. And then it basically talks about halon, which is probably not something you're using in your house.
Okay.
A large lithium-ion fire, such as in an electric vehicle, may need to burn out as water is ineffective. So if you have a giant pile of lithium-ion batteries, spitting on it is probably not going to solve your problem.
Probably not.
I'm just saying, but yeah. It's. I was thinking about that. Like, what happens, if you have a lithium-ion fire on a plane? And generally
Apparently,
speaking,
you're supposed to pour Coca-Cola on it.
Yeah.
Or water.
Well, it's a little crazy, right? But if if you notice your battery pack overheating, or if your phone suddenly bulges, or if like, hey, my phone is smoking, what do I do? Well, if you have a flame-proof environment nearby, for example, the stainless steel sink, put it in the stainless steel sink. Don't leave it on the wooden cabinet. Don't leave it on the wooden piece of furniture. Don't leave it on the giant pile of books, right? It sounds ridiculous, but take a breath, move it someplace non-flammable, assuming you can pick it up without burning your hands.
Yes.
Because one of those S7 burns apparently was in the pocket of someone's pants, and they had to go through serious skin grafts. So
that's bad.
that's bad. So that's bad.
Well, moving on, Luke has some thoughts on hearing protection. He wrote ask@TekThing.com. While I would never discourage anyone from using hearing protection, I would like to point out that the noise generated from headphones is distracting. I work on a cattle farm in my spare time, and you never know when hearing that whine when it starts coming off the mower will save you a couple $100, or in extreme cases, your life. Just a reminder that being aware of your surroundings include being able to hear. Thanks, and keep up the good work from Luke. Yes. That's very, very true.
Well, and I think we've both seen in San Francisco where people are reading on their phones with headphones on while crossing an intersection, which utterly
I've seen
terrifies me.
It's so bad.
I
Don't
never
do that.
wear headphones or earbuds when I'm cycling or snowboarding for that matter. I actually listen to the edges of my board on the snow to know that I'm turning properly. But seriously, be situationally aware. Go, Luke.
And then lastly, we got a message on Facebook, and this was from Othmane Lormhari. I'm so sorry if I said your name wrong. This is over at facebook.com/TekThing. And he says, from Copenhagen, Denmark with love. And he's included a picture of a 69.44 megabits per second down and 94.64 megabits per second up with a 2 millisecond ping time, which speed test says is faster than 90% of Denmark. That is crazy. Also, I'm so jelly. And also, I realized that some folks out there thought that we were whining when we discussed the new Comcast caps.
I was whining a little bit.
We both were. And they said that we should get a life if we're watching too much Netflix video and playing video games and stuff. So video games and TV shows aren't the only things that take up a lot of data. For example, with our jobs, we back up several gigs of data files to the cloud because we live in earthquake country for our job. If we lose all of those master video files that we create, and all of those masters are gigabytes of data, we're kind of screwed. I also run a security camera, and that creates quite a bit of data as well, because I like to see the video from my internet connection at home so I can keep an eye on my household when I'm away. So I realize that not everybody needs 1 terabyte of data per month, and that's totally cool. But when your job is so intrinsically tied to the internet, it's very important. And no, business accounts don't have caps. I know, I'm aware of that. Like, we don't have a cap here in the warehouse, which is great, but it's also way more expensive than a consumer plan. So there is a trade-off. It works better for some people than others.
Yeah. Well, it's also this also comes back to the ancient internet argument of like, well, you think you paid for this much, but you actually paid for this much, and if you want as much as you think you're already paying for, you actually need to buy the more expensive thing. In any case, yeah, I'll pay the $50 additional long before I will figure out how to pay for a professional account. Although they are getting more affordable.
Oh, that's good.
But at one point, it was like 5 to 10 times as much to get a professional account than it was to get a consumer account.
All right. Remember, once in a while, put down your phone, step away from the screen, close your laptop, and do something analog, like Patrick's pick this week.
Get the Chili Mac from the brand new Steak and Shake in beautiful... Well, okay, it's not really built yet. But basically at 360 East Market Street, there's going to be a Steak and Shake, which hopefully is completed this week. It was supposed to be open October 15th.
Goodness.
Yeah, that's the signs of them building it in beautiful Daly City, California. And if you don't know what a Steak and Shake is, you're probably not from parts of the Midwest or the South. And I want to give a loving shout out to
excited about this.
at 8Robot and at Pinatubo 2000, aka, well, people I love and used to work with, for the heads up that Las Vegas is no longer the closest place to get shake and steak.
Shake and steak?
Shake and steak. Shake and steak.
Steak and shake.
I'm just giddy with the idea of getting the chili
I am
back
too.
on.
Like, talk about college years when all I got was a milkshake and some French fries in the middle of the night. Like, that's good times.
Pasta, chili, double meat, hand-dipped milkshake, steak and shake for the win. Oh my goodness. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing. Did you get to wear a terrible bridesmaid's dress with a giant bow?
It was a great bridesmaid dress.
That's weird.
Yeah, I know, right? She made a great choice.
It's
She let me kind of
unusual.
sort of choose.
Well, most brides aren't really sort of, willing to give their bridesmaids excellent looking dresses. There seems to be a thing where, like, I gotta buy funky dresses that make everybody look like the 1970s vomited on the 1980s by way of colors that nobody would wear in the 2000s.
She chose a great one. I was like, yes, I can keep this and wear it again sometime maybe. I think I'll dye it a different color though.
Perhaps you can wear it to the opera and be sophisticated.
Ooh, it is.
Do something
it's
analog.
full
Go to
length.
the opera.
It's so pretty.
Did you have matching dyed shoes?
No, but I did have matching dyed hair.
That's funny. I just remember the first time I found out, like you would get your shoes dyed to match the dress.
That's so weird.
That being like such a mind-blowing concept
No,
to
it's
me.
so weird.
I get tie-dye t-shirts, but dyed shoes was just mystical.